Hi, I'm J.C. Holman, and this is the Anarcha Archive. And what I want to say in this video is, okay, I know what you're thinking. In our last video, I revealed that I found Anarcha in the case records of Women's Hospital in New York City, which was founded by the so-called father of gynecology, J. Marion Sims, in 1855. In other words, Anarcha was experimented on again by Sims a short time after the hospital opened. For about 6 weeks, she was staying somewhere right near here, at Women's Hospital's first location. But I know what you're saying to yourself. How do you know the Anarcha in New York is the same as the Anarcha from Alabama?
Whoa, 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 whoa.
This is a totally fair question. And what can we say from just these images? Well, it's the same rare given name. The age is exactly right. It's the same relatively rare condition, obstetric fistula. It's the same doctor who experiments on her. And for this last one, I'll ask you to trust me for a bit until a later video. But the Anarcha in Alabama worked as a nurse, and so does the Anarcha in Virginia.
That's already a circumstantial slam dunk. Admittedly, circumstantial evidence is not direct evidence, but circumstantial evidence can be very powerful. For example, if one night you go to sleep and your driveway is clear and you wake up the next morning and find it covered with snow, that's circumstantial evidence that it snowed overnight. You didn't see it happen, but it happened. You can be convicted of crimes on circumstantial evidence alone. So if this was a trial, just this one document about Anarcha would remove all reasonable doubt. When I showed just this document to the well-known scholar of slavery, Eric Foner, that was all he needed. He wrote back to me, "It does seem that Anarcha and Anarcha are the same person." But there's also this. At this point, Sims was already using Anarcha as the central figure in the myth of his career. Is it really possible that he would come across another enslaved woman, also named Anarcha, cure her too, and then not have anything to say about it? That's not how this guy went about his business. He seized on every chance for self-promotion. But okay, I wasn't satisfied with just that. After an archivist at the New York Public Library helped me identify William L. Maury as Anarcha's enslaver as of 1856, another archivist at the NYPL, Philip Sutton, found something else, a connection from Sims to another member of the Maury family, R.B. Maury. We'll be going into more detail about the Maury family in later videos, but this was a very widespread family. William L. Maury was older than R.B. Maury, but they were related, and the family was tight-knit. In fact, there's a society dedicated to the study of the family even today. And here's the thing, just like Sims, R.B. Maury was a gynecologist. It's more than just a coincidence. Sims and R.B. Maury belonged to some of the same professional associations, and many years later, after Sims died, and there was an effort to raise a monument to him in New York City, there were about 30 physicians who served on a committee to sponsor the statue. R.B. Maury was one of them. In other words, there was a direct connection from Sims to the Maury family. And there was more than one connection. This is Ann Fontaine Maury, the father of oceanography. He was related to both R.B. Maury and William L. Maury, Anarcha's enslaver. Ann Fontaine Maury was a famous scientist, and both he and William L. Maury were in the United States Navy, though both would resign to join the Confederate Navy at the start of the Civil War. And this is J.F.G. Mittag, who was Sims' tutor when he was a teenager. Sims' autobiography describes Mittag as the first teacher to see potential in him, and the two went on to be lifelong friends. In fact, Mittag was staying with Sims in New York City right around the time that Anarcha was checked into Women's Hospital. This is 1848, a few years earlier. Both Ann Fontaine Maury, the cousin of Anarcha's enslaver, and J.F.G. Mittag, Sims' teacher and friend, served on a very small board gathered to consider questions related to railroad construction. Once again, there's a direct connection from Sims to the Maury family.
And there's even more. Now we're jumping ahead a bit, and future videos will describe this in more detail. Sims left New York in 1861, and he lived in Europe for the duration of the Civil War, mostly in Paris. This is an announcement of the wedding of his daughter in 1864, and it specifically says that members of the Confederate Navy were in attendance. It would be way too much to go into here, but the evidence shows that both Matthew Fontaine Maury and Anarcha's enslaver, William L. Maury, were both in Paris at around this time, when Sims was throwing parties for Navy men. It's virtually certain that they would have attended this reception at Sims' Paris home. In other words, there's a direct connection from Sims to the man who was identified as Anarcha's enslaver in 1856. That's all I needed to be convinced. The Anarcha who appeared in New York in 1856 is the same as the Anarcha upon whom J. Marion Sims experimented in Alabama between 1846 and 1849. Next time, I'll talk more about how and when Anarcha might have moved from the South to the North, from Alabama to Richmond, and then to New York City. This will provide still more evidence that Anarcha did not remain in Alabama.
Whoa, 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 whoa.